Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and Geocollaborate. This is going to be a short update today, but I do want to cover the East Coast storm that's coming through and also the wildfire around Malibu that's happening right now as well. Today's update is for the All Hazards Consortium, the sensitive information sharing environment where we share information across platforms. From private sector liaisons all the way to the private sector owner and operators, so we can keep the economy moving and things delivered into stores and pharmacies. So right now, this is the way it looks. We have a very strong cold front that's coming through the East Coast right now. It's raining fairly hard up and down the East Coast with this front coming through. It's clearing out quickly in South Carolina, Georgia, parts of northern Florida. But I've enhanced the satellite imagery. This is the GOES East satellite image, and I've put colors onto the more intense clouds, or the higher clouds, I should say. And you can see them right in here. Coming through Maryland, it's pretty heavy rain right now, eastern and central Virginia. But the real story here is going to be rain and the wind. There are a lot of high wind warnings and high wind advisories in effect from Maryland's eastern shore all the way up through eastern New Jersey, Long Island, into Rhode Island and Connecticut and Massachusetts, up into Maine. And there's also flood advisories there. Geocollaborate's kind of lighting up like a Christmas tree right now, and I'll show you that here in just a second. But if we get a little bit closer in here for this satellite data, you can see there's a strong sort of cutoff here to the west, but there are low clouds and strong winds that are going to be hitting the slopes there in the Appalachians, causing snow to fall probably at least 2 to 4, maybe 6 inches in western Maryland once it gets cold enough to start snowing. And then also the lake effect snow machine is really kicking in again, and that is going to result in snowfall totals of 1 to some cases 3 feet of snow because the lakes are still warm. And when the lakes are warm and cold air blows over them, it creates clouds, lots of moisture evaporation off the lakes, and it condenses into snow, and heavy snow at that in some places. I do want to move up to New England a little bit too, because there's a large area of a flood watch in effect because there's snow cover on the ground there, and the rain is going to be falling very heavily. And that means that we'll have runoff, not only melting and runoff from the snow, but also the water will run off the top of the snow and the ice and may swell the rivers there. I don't think that it will be over the banks because there's been a very large drought in most of the Northeast. But still, keep your eyes out if you're out and about driving. And if any roads are covered in water, please turn around, don't drown. You never know. You might think that the road is there. You're driving along and all of a sudden, boom, the road is gone and you're now floating and you don't know what to do. So that's something that we want to make sure that you pay attention to. So here's what's happening. I'm taking it full screen here so you can see a little bit wider picture of this amazing satellite imagery. And you can see some of these storms are firing up off the coast of North Carolina. Again, this is satellite imagery. It's not radar data, but we can use satellite imagery to see where those storms are. I'll turn off the enhancement here for a second, and you can see the shadows are starting to show up because here comes the sunset line, that terminator line where the sun is going to be setting. But that angle of the sun also lets us see some holes in the clouds and also enhancements to the clouds where there might be more heavy rain in this visible satellite data. But look at how fast those clouds are moving. The wind is howling across Lake Michigan, storm warnings, and it's blowing so hard into Lake Erie. There is a low water advisory in the southwest portion of the lake because it's going to be a blowout. It's going to be kind of draining out of there. Some areas there will be thunderstorms happening as well because of the strong vertical motion of this. So let's go over to Geocollaborate. I want to show you what that looks like from the standpoint of all the rain and also the advisories. So here's the rain extending. This is the real-time radar. There's special marine warnings for thunderstorms off the coast of off the Space Coast there. These are small craft advisories and also, in some cases, gale warnings in effect off the coast because the winds are so strong coming in behind that cold front. Well, here's the wind extending, or the rain extending up very heavy throughout the Washington, Baltimore area, approaching Philadelphia. And you can see this, all this is falling on snow cover up to the north. And yes, it's all rain right now here. And I'm going to turn the radar data off so we can focus a little bit more on the, let me go over to the radar data and turn that off right here. There we go. So I've turned off the radar data. Now we're just looking at the advisories that are in effect. And I'm going to zoom in here because these are all wind advisories across Indiana and Ohio and through Pittsburgh. And look at this. Also, high wind warnings at the higher elevations of the Appalachians here, and also winter weather advisories along the high spots in western Maryland and West Virginia. Snow 2 to 4 inches, perhaps locally, some more. There's also coastal flood advisories. This is Anne Arundel County in Maryland, and also gale warnings on the Chesapeake Bay. But take a look up here to the north, New York. This is a high wind warning, and that is going to, remember we talked about that yesterday. I was very concerned about strong winds causing potentially some damage and also some power outages along Maryland's eastern shore up through Pennsylvania, up through New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, and on into Long Island. These winds could reach 50 to 60 miles per hour and wave heights 13 to 18 feet just off of Long Island. In this purple area here, this purple area is a storm warning, and that means winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour, perhaps gusts close to hurricane force, which is 74 miles per hour. So let's go up to the north a little bit here too. We have high wind warnings in effect in eastern Massachusetts, out on the Cape. Boy, it's going to be nasty. It is right now with very strong winds blowing around the Cape right now. And that is going to continue until this front passes through and the low gets out of here. So all of this area in green is a flood watch. There's a lot of snow cover in this area, and that means that we're going to have rain on top of snow. But look at this area in here. This is a snow squall, lake effect snow warning, and that's out of the Buffalo Weather Forecast Office. That is going to continue for the next 24 hours and even down into places around here in the northeast of Lake Ontario. Very heavy snow is going to be falling once the temperature gets low enough there, and they'll see very heavy snow. That includes Erie County and also Buffalo as well. These lake effect snow warnings don't expire until tonight after about midnight to early in the morning. So it's going to be a quick hit lake effect snow, but it could amount to 1 to perhaps 2 feet of snow. Some areas locally could get between 2 and 3 feet of snow. Look at this off the coast of Maryland. This is a gale warning here. There's also a low water advisory because the winds are going to be blowing so hard. This is called the Assawoman Bay here up towards Ocean City, and that is going to be very low. So navigating boats is going to be very tough. So lots of wind, perhaps damage in this area. Let's take a look at what it looks like from the standpoint of the weather forecast models. I said I was going to make this short, but I need to talk about the West Coast as well. Let's go back to the satellite loop, and I want to go out to California because we have a couple of things happening. We have this major wildfire in Malibu, and that's right about in here. Notice the high, thin clouds. These are cirrus clouds here. Yesterday, I was able to show you the smoke from the visible satellite imagery coming up and being pushed out over the Pacific. Well, it's being blocked now from the high, thin cirrus clouds here. And up to the north, There's another storm system here, and it's throwing some moisture to the east over Oregon, western Oregon. There is another chance for an atmospheric river to come into California. Not really from this system. This system is going to weaken, but there is another system beyond this, and that is this one right here. This one is going to strengthen, and over the next 3 to 4 days or so, we'll develop an atmospheric river that comes into southern Oregon and California. Let me show you what that looks like from the standpoint of the atmospheric river forecast. Okay, so here we go. Remember this graph? This is what we've talked about when we talk about atmospheric rivers. I'll point this out here. Here is the point in California that this graph applies to, and you can see the atmospheric river that is forecast. So it's basically a weak to moderate atmospheric river, green, expected not today, not tomorrow, which is Thursday, but Friday into Saturday morning. Looks like a moderate atmospheric river could impact the coast of California. And I could move down the coast. See this dot moving? Every time I move the dot, the graph changes with the timing and the intensity of the expected atmospheric river. So just generally speaking, it looks like Friday into Saturday along the central and northern California coast is when this atmospheric river will impact you if that's where you're watching from. Little bit of a break in Northern California. Doesn't look like it's strong enough to be classified as an atmospheric river, but it doesn't mean you're not going to get rain. You'll still get rain. And then on up into Oregon, it looks like here, remember this is today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So again, Friday during the day looks like a rainy day, more of a nuisance kind of rain, but there could still be some localized flooding. Let's head on up into the Washington coast here. It looks like there's one that's already passed. This is in the past. This is in the future. But it doesn't look like it's going to be significant enough to be really an atmospheric river, and a very weak one at that into Vancouver and Vancouver Island, and then again on up into western British Columbia. So the good news is that we're going to get moisture into California. The bad news is it's not going to be down where the fires are burning right now. And that is unfortunate because in Malibu, the Franklin fire is burning, not well contained at this moment. But I do have good news. I'm going to show you the winds in that area and what it looks like. Okay, so let's go over here. I'm showing you these are modeled winds, but it's valid right now. And you can see here's Santa Clarita, here's Thousand Oaks, here is Malibu, where the fire is burning. The Franklin fire is burning right now. Good news, the Pepperdine students they don't have to shelter in place anymore. They were served lunch in the cafeteria. And it looks like there's just some minor spot fires that are happening that are being addressed by local firefighters there. Now, as the fire is burning right now, we have received reports that multiple fixed-wing air tankers have been ordered by Air Attack for today and are currently working the fire. In addition to multiple retardant-capable helitankers and water-dropping helicopters, they are attacking this fire to really knock it down. Protecting lives and property is the number one priority right now, and ground force resources remain assigned to structure protection, and crews continue to patrol the fire area for hot spots and flare-ups, because that happens after you have a major fire like this. And also the fire is almost 4,000 acres and only about 7% contained. That was at about 11 o'clock this morning, just 7% contained. So those embers that were blowing on 50 to 60 to 70 mile per hour winds yesterday, dropping in this area and creating these spot fires, have really diminished. The winds are light here. We can go down even closer into Malibu. Look at these winds. Just 2 knots, and from the northwest. 2 knots from the northwest. Topanga, 2 knots. So it's really good. The wind advisories are going to be allowed to expire this afternoon into tonight, which is great news. The not so great news is that the dry air is going to be around for quite a while, for the next 24 to 36 hours. So if wildfires do form, the conditions are very favorable for wildfires to form. So these winds, thankfully, are quite weak right now. So that Santa Ana wind is easing. It doesn't mean it's over, because in some areas it will pick up. I was looking at some of the observations in some of the areas there, and winds were gusting to 12 to 15 miles per hour. So we could see 15 to 20 mile per hour wind gusts at times. And yes, when the fire does get hot enough, it can create its own weather by sucking in air, so it can really evacuate it up through the flame. But right now, it looks like the Santa Ana portion of this is really easing up, and we're very thankful for that. So let's go over here where the cold front is on the East Coast and look at the winds howling from the south here. All of these winds right now are blowing 30 to 45 knots, so 50 to almost 60 miles per hour. And look where it's headed, right up to eastern Long Island and also up into the eastern parts of Massachusetts. Very strong winds could cause some power outages here, but the winds do shift around. I'm going to put this into motion a little bit as we go into 5 o'clock p.m. and 6 and 7 o'clock p.m. You see where the winds change direction here? Goes from the northwest, then from the southwest. This is the front. This is where the front is forecast to be, and that is about 7 o'clock tonight. So the winds are going to pick up, be quite strong after this front passes through. Look at this in the southern part of the Chesapeake Bay. Very strong. And then you can see the winds coming and hitting the Appalachian Mountains. That's what's going to create some snow. And look at the strong winds over the Great Lakes. Lake Michigan, it's going to be lake effect snow here. Lots of snow falling. Grand Rapids down to Kalamazoo, up towards Big Rapids, Cadillac. You'll see snowfall, and there are winter storm warnings in those places in parts of the Great Lakes. I can show you that on Geocollaborate. Here are the Great Lakes, and you can see all the pink area. This is Lake Michigan. All these pink areas right now are winter storm warnings in effect, and winter weather advisories out towards Grand Rapids and Lansing. So I'll back out here a little bit so you can see what else is going on. A lot of low water advisories here. That's in the southwest of Lake Erie because of those strong winds. Gale warnings, and in some cases storm warnings in effect. Very bad day to be out there on the Great Lakes in a boat, and also on the East Coast in a boat. Why? Because of all these winds that are blowing so hard. Remember what I said before, 13 to 18 foot waves kicking up off of Long Island, and that is something that we're going to be monitoring very closely. I just remembered here that I do have the ocean observation buoys that are out there in the Atlantic Ocean, and I just want to check some of those real quick just to see what they look like. I'll see if we have any global drifters in the area, and also the NDBC buoys. These are buoys from NOAA. So let's go over. It's going to look a little bit crowded, but I just want to show you Geocollaborate here, and we'll check some of these winds out and what it looks like. So here's some off the coast of Long Island. Look at this. South wind, 23 knots, gusting to 29 knots, pressure falling. Very cold water temperature, 53 degrees. Ouch. Here's some wave heights, significant wave height, almost 8 feet off the coast of New Jersey. Off the coast of Maryland and Delaware, winds gusting to 17.5 miles per hour. Water temperature 52 degrees. Let's get a little bit closer in here so we can see these some of these buoys out here off the Cape. 11-foot significant waves right now, dominant wave period of 8 seconds. So waves are really building up off the coast of Long Island with these strong winds. No recent data from that one. How about in Long Island Sound? Nothing there. And how about this buoy? Well, let's try this one. We'll get a little bit closer here. I don't see anything from there. Coastal flood statements from Connecticut because Long Island, because the winds are blowing so strongly onshore. So there could be some roads that flood in that area as well. Up towards Cape Cod, let's take a look here near Martha's Vineyard. This is a Narracus site from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. 9.8, almost 10-foot waves, significant wave heights there. That's going to cause some perhaps beach erosion around Falmouth here. Let's see what these observations are. Winds at 7 knots might be blocked a little bit, or it's just light winds. No recent data off the coast of Massachusetts. There's winds gusting to almost 30 knots, so about 33, 34 miles per hour, almost into tropical storm force, and even into off the coast of Maine near Portland, winds gusting to 25 knots. This purple area means storm warnings, so winds are expected to be upwards of 50 to 60 miles per hour during the night, the evening today and into tonight. So that's what it looks like. Let's take a look at the model data real quick so I can show you what's going on. Here's the model, and this is the GFS model. This is the cold air just coming in to the East Coast. You can see that trough of low pressure. Let me back out here actually and go to the initialization time. Here's the front, and that frontal system was approaching. Now it's passing through. This is valid right about now, this afternoon. And then by this evening, this is about 7 o'clock tonight, the cold air is pouring in. This is about 5,000, 6,000 feet up in the atmosphere, but you can see it pouring in. This is really cold stuff. Northern Minnesota, also Wisconsin, just heading into Michigan. This is the real cold stuff, and that's going to be advancing to the east, and this is what really causes those lake effect snows to enhance very significantly. But look at this. Temperature drops quickly. High temperature today around 60 degrees in western Maryland, but when this front comes through, it's only going to get up to about 22 or 23 degrees during the day tomorrow with this cold front coming through. Very strong winds as well. So let's take this on into the future, and by Thursday night, the cold air is starting to retreat into Friday. Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont and New York still in the cold air, and that is going to result in scattered snow showers in some places. Other areas, some heavier snows, particularly along the eastern edge of the lakes. So we'll take that out, and the cold air leaves Maine on the 15th, early on the 15th. That's Sunday, and then we start to warm up. So look at this into Monday and Tuesday of next week. Fairly mild along the East Coast, but then another shot of cold air coming in. Not as cold as this one that's passing through right now. And it kind of just skirts Maryland and Northern Virginia. But this area of cold air coming in through December 18th, that is next Wednesday, looks like it will impact the metropolis area of Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and on up into New York and Boston. So that's going to stick around for a while and set the stage maybe as we approach Christmas for some scattered snowflakes or raindrops on Christmas Day. That is way far out there. That is beyond Fantasyland, really, as we talk about in our book that was just published. So looks like the cold air will be around after a couple of bits and bouts with some mild weather. But tonight is the real impact event for the winds. That could create down trees, some down power lines, and also winds gusting 50 to 60 miles per hour in the eastern parts of the country, as I mentioned. So I'm going to call it there because I did want to make this shorter. And that's the way it looks. So we're going to go back here to the West Coast. That is the next atmospheric river maker. That is going to be what impacts California on Friday into Saturday. So it doesn't look like it's going to be today. This is Wednesday, so Thursday, Friday. Friday into Saturday, that's when this atmospheric river is going to impact California. And on the East Coast, we have this frontal system coming through. So it's rocking and rolling along the Great Lakes and from the Carolinas all the way up into Maine, where there's a flood watch in effect. That's it for this update. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and Geocollaborate. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another update if conditions warrant. We'll be watching the wildfire as well and seeing if we can pass along relevant information where this wildfire will be impacting critical infrastructure. And we'll be monitoring any power outages here on the East Coast. So this update was for the All Hazards Consortium, sensitive information sharing environment. Thanks so much for watching this update. Please take care of yourself, and please also watch out for your neighbors. They do appreciate it. They might not say it, but they really do appreciate it. Have yourself a good day.